It's no big deal. Just weird this time of year, and that's wonderful. Something to talk about that isn't awful. Encouraging, even if we can drop that snow on the fires. RTD's drop plan is ugly. The potential to lay off hundreds of employees, the same people they've spent years fighting to hire. The state of Colorado wonders if you might like a state-sponsored app to track your movements. It's for COVID-19 contact tracing, but something tells me that won't go over well. And the animals evicted from our zoo for behavioral reasons. The fire's crackling. Settle in on this snowy September night, because this is next. The Denver metro area is in real danger of not having a functioning transit agency, at least not functioning in the sense that anybody wants. RTD is so low on funds, it's considering cutting a third to a quarter of its budgeted positions for next year. More than 600 of our neighbors could lose their jobs in this. Then imagine what that gutting would do to how people try to get around town. Steve Steger is our man aboard RTD's struggle bus.
They sacrificed their family, they sacrificed their health, they stuck with RTD.
Many of them worked 6-day weeks, mandated overtime to cover bus routes and train lines that were understaffed. And today, Amalgamated Transit Union boss Lance Longenbaum said RTD staff told him as many as 470 of his union-represented workers could lose their jobs as RTD tries to find $166 million in cuts to balance next year's budget.
Bus operators, bus mechanics, service and cleaning, the people who wash the buses.
RTD's interim CEO, Paul Ballard, sent this 2-page memo this afternoon outlining cuts staff will suggest to the board. Among them, the potential for laying off 635 employees, eliminating a quarter to a third of budgeted jobs within the agency. Salaried employees left would face furloughs, pension cuts, and other benefit cuts. A move to right-size the agency, Ballard says, since RTD is only operating at about 60% of its normal service level.
Our finances cannot support us operating as is.
Board Director Natalie Menton says RTD has failed to trim fat for years. She is proposing cutting the salaries of 9 administrators who make $200,000 a year or more by 15%.
I cannot even believe that I'm getting some resistance from board directors when we are getting ready to lay off hundreds of people.
Menton says she wants that to be part of the conversation as the board prepares to negotiate a contract with its new general manager on Wednesday night.
We're going to hire a general manager for potentially $300,000 or more. We need to be trimming the belt from the very top position on down.
RTD has proposed delaying some capital projects to try to save money. Many of the board members I talked to today say that the savings account for the Longmont train should not be off limits here. It has about $120 million in it. The board members up north, obviously, though, say that that money should remain intact so that train can be built. RTD's board has a study session a week from tonight where they are going to discuss some of these budget cuts, Kyle.
Steve, it's got to be obvious to everybody at this point that whether we're talking about the jobs promised to people or contracts or future projects, RTE is just not in a position to keep all of its promises.
Yeah, and you can blame a lot of this on the pandemic, obviously. Ridership has declined, sales tax revenue has declined, but a lot of these were issues RTD was already having well before the pandemic. So perhaps the pandemic might be this time that RTD sits down and tries to figure out some of these problems that just continue to plague this agency.
All right, Steve, thank you very much. The Dougco school superintendent says he's out, insisting he wasn't forced out of that high-pressure job in a school district where political clashes permeate so much of what school leaders try to do in Douglas County. Dr. Thomas Tucker said late this afternoon that the reason he's resigning is because his family still lives back in Ohio and his mom is sick in Arkansas. The Dougco rumor mill's in full churn, as it does, something that the superintendent addressed directly late this afternoon.
This is my decision, and for some, please do not be so quick to judge. I think we have too much of that going on in the world today.
Obviously a crucial time of year for any school leader, and Dr. Tucker's going to remain with Doug Coe through the end of the month. Colorado continues to hold steady in our fight against COVID-19, and based on where we are, that's terrific news. Yesterday, a bit more than 3% of the state's COVID-19 tests came back as positive. Our 7-day moving average is 2.5%. It's down from over 3% a week ago. Then you look at the hospitalizations. That sorts out the most serious cases. 137 people are currently hospitalized with COVID-19 in our state. Our 7-day average is a bit over 139. That's down slightly from where it was last week. Sports betting is legal in Colorado now, and it has been a safe bet that the state would allow people into places just as soon as the Denver Broncos wanted to put people into Mile High. And sure enough, Governor Jared Polis was more than happy to personally announce today that the Broncos are going to have 5,700 fans in the stands for Week 3 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady. 5,700 Broncos fans spaced into 175-person pods for social distancing. Now, the return of Broncos fans is going to no doubt cause some to point to the predicament that Bandimere Speedway is in. After defying county health orders that limited them to 175 people, Bandimere hosted an anti-masker rally that organizers claimed drew thousands. They'd gotten sued over it, and Bandimere's become the martyr for a group of conservatives who say that the state is picking on Bandimere. Jeffco Public Health says Bandimere can apply to have more people there, just as the Broncos applied to bring in more fans to Mile High, but only if the Speedway operates within the approved public health guidelines. Still, I'd say it's tough to imagine the Democratic governor offering a personal welcome party at the Speedway where he has been derided as a king and a tyrant. There is no such nastiness for Polis in the capital of Broncos country.
They're having a series of 175 person events in a very large outdoor setting. So, of course, that provides a framework for any other types of larger events that want to have cohorted groups of 175 with distinct entry points and operational distinction between them.
Tucked in with that Broncos news today from the governor, when that was clearly going to be the media focus, was a small side note that the state would like us all to download an app to track our movements. A what to what or what? So this is COVID-19 tracing meets technology. Our Marshall Zellinger challenged the governor about giving up privacy for pandemic protection.
What if your phone, in addition to getting gifts describing today's weather, also alerted you to possibly being exposed to COVID-19? It's an app coming to your phone later this month, if you opt in.
On an iPhone, you'll just have to turn it on, and on an Android phone, you'll have to download an app.
The state announced the app called EN Express, Exposure Notification, to help notify people who may have been exposed to COVID. How? Follow this example of Alice and Bob sitting next to each other on a bench.
Their phones are exchanging through Bluetooth anonymous tokens back and forth with each other.
Let's say Bob later tests positive for COVID. He can upload his test result to the app, which will then start a process to notify other phones his phone has been around.
All of those tokens then send a message back to the phones that they were generated on and give people a little push notification that say, hey, look, you might have been exposed, call your local public health agency.
If it is exactly as they say, I don't see any major security flaws in that kind of application, then I certainly see some upsides to it.
Both Steve Beatty, MSU Denver Computer Science Chair, and Sarah Thunberg with the State Health Department confirm tokens do not share personally identifiable information or your location, just that your phone was near someone else's phone.
Your phone will generate what we call a completely random set of characters. And then once it's within Bluetooth range of any other phone, and that's give or take 30 feet or so, then it will exchange that token with the other phone.
But what happens if those tokens get hacked or compromised?
Even if you got a hold of them, it would look like a list of gobbledygook numbers and letters, and you could not actually back into whose phone it came from, whose phone it went to.
Other states are also using the app. Your phone can ping other devices and vice versa in Alabama, Arizona, D.C., Maryland, Nevada, North Dakota, Virginia, and Wyoming. So that means if you get COVID or someone your phone has been around gets COVID and you upload the information to that app, you're going to get that uncomfortable text message, or you're going to give that uncomfortable text message to someone else.
Marshall, now that you explain it, this sounds a lot more innocuous than the tracking capabilities that we give, say, the Google.
True. I asked Steve Beatty, like, does our phone do anything like this that we already use and just don't realize? And not really. The closest example would be airdropping someone a photo, but that requires knowing the other person's contact information. This, according to everybody so far, eliminates all contact information.
All right, Marshall Zellinger, thank you for that report and for showing us what it looks like when a sweater fits. You guys continue to make Colorado a better place to live through your $5 donations to our Word of Thanks micro-giving campaign each week. Are you ready to hear how much you donated to the low-cost vet clinic run out of Denver Dumb Friends League? $88,207. That is astonishing. It's our third highest weekly total yet. That's the place where the pet owners line up outside of dawn, just hoping, or before dawn, just hoping that they're going to be able to get in that day so that their pet can be seen, and knowing that they're only going to have to pay what they're able to pay. Your donations are going to keep more pets and their people together for years to come. I hope that that's something that you feel great about all week long. And I'll be back tomorrow with another $5 idea of how we can help out somewhere else. September snow in Colorado is soothing, it seemed. A return to a more normal kind of abnormal. The sort of thing that we used to ooh and ah about, even though it wasn't all that unusual. I mean, it certainly didn't happen every decade for sure, but it was the kind of thing you could spend hours talking about when you didn't have anything else to talk about. We have too much to talk about now, worry about now. So, a return to what once passed for excitement in these parts? That seemed the absolute inverse. It was soothing, calming. To have something out of our hands be just an interesting inconvenience, not a tragedy or a catastrophe. It's just snow in September in Colorado. Let it fall on the fires, and may it remind the rest of us what used to pass for excitement. Now that schools know how to do learning from home, is that the end of snow days?
But I think will allow us to continue sort of unfazed with an approach to learning.
And the zoo animals sent packing after running afoul of management. I'm a father. These dad jokes like my sweater are my right. That's next.
Of winter in summer. We've been talking about it for 6 days, but it is still a shock to the system. After days in the 90s with the snow and cold settling in, and now a winter weather advisory. Light accumulating snow between now and midnight with temperatures in the mid-30s after a 50 to 60 degree temperature swing in the past 24 hours. The low over northern Utah is rotating waves of snow over Colorado, so light accumulation is expected tonight with the winter weather advisory out through noon tomorrow. Several inches of wet, heavy snow for Denver, and then we'll start to see drier air working in from north to south as we move through the afternoon time period. The heavier snow amounts, of course, will be in the foothills areas west and south where a winter storm warning is posted. A freeze warning in effect tonight as lows go below freezing, and you'll need to cover any plants you want to save. Tomorrow, very little sunshine, high 43, morning snow and then clearing. We do have a warmer day Thursday, and then we're back to sunshine, 70s and 80s by the weekend. By the weekend, you'll be saying, storm? What snowstorm?
Our next question takes us back to school. With so many schools doing remote learning all the time, or in part, what happens to snow days? Especially if some schools decide to stay remote clear through the winter. Our Sonia Gutierrez sets out to find the answer.
Even though most of the snow in Denver is expected tonight, 6 Denver public school campuses had to close today because of the weather. The schools didn't have working heaters.
We had a couple issues with boilers where we're waiting for parts. We anticipate that all of the buildings will be back up and functioning, hopefully by Thursday at the latest.
Folks who signed up for childcare, school lunches, and the school staff were impacted by today's weather closures. Now that students are remote learning, many are wondering if snow days will even exist. Superintendent Susana Cordova says DPS hasn't made a firm decision on how they'll handle snow days this school year.
Our hope is that we're going to be able to stay connected with our students much more closely via technology. We know how critical, particularly in a year like this year, it's going to be to maximize learning times.
Across the state, other districts districts are on the same page. Douglas County and Jeffco Public School Districts said they're currently looking at their snow day policies. For now, nothing changes.
I know we've always tried to weigh the pros and cons of, but I think will allow us to continue sort of unfazed with an approach to learning.
If districts have figured out a way to take the joy of a snow day via remote learning, none of them told us about it today. For Next, I'm Sonia Gutierrez.
It's amazing to see how animals adapt to the weather, like the lions and their heat rocks, for example. Probably got them on Wayfair. And we've learned some other animals causing a ruckus at the zoo got kicked out. That's next. Among our weird shared obsessions around here is how animals are reacting when us humans get worked up, like about the weather. At the zoo, we're told that the animals mostly just keep on keeping on. They hook up the sensitive types like the lions with some heated rocks. The zoo says some animals actually like it and get more active in the cold, like the tigers. The bears? Unclear. We should have asked about that. Other animals, though, like us humans, pack on the pounds as it gets colder.
A great example of that is our sea lions. So sea lions, they keep warm because of their layer of blubber. And so as it gets colder, they want more fat, and that's how they insulate themselves. And so they'll eat more food. Same food, but more of it.
Same. You know which animals are not concerned about the change in the weather? The peafowl that used to freely roam the zoo, the peacocks and pea ladies, because they would also sometimes roam the neighborhoods outside the zoo, and because of that and some other business, they got shipped out of town. There used to be 40 of the birds that could walk around. They weren't caged. A couple years ago, 8 of them headed out into the neighborhood. 1 was hit and killed by a car. Apparently, they were also getting into scraps with zoo visitors. The zoo blames humans for harassing or trying to feed the birds, and I don't doubt that. But apparently, the peafowl were nothing but trouble. So now they've been relocated to other zoos. They're gone. This sweater is covering my tender vegetation. Hope you are doing the same in your garden this evening. We have a gloriously glowing example of that, and your feedback next. The most Colorado thing we saw today is a lit way to protect your plants. And guess what the kids say? A bunch of you have told us that the Christmas lights under the plastic trick works. They give off just enough heat to warm the plants, and look, they're majestic. Kathy sent us a photo of her husband Jeff's setup. He's a middle school science teacher, so you know the technique is legit. Send us all the Colorado things. Email next@9news.com or use the hashtag #HeyNext. Don correctly notes that the birds that I referred to as pea ladies are peahens. That's the correct term. Corey says, your sweater is sweet. You don't need to show off pecs to look good. Well, that's a relief, Corey, because I'm not certain I have any. See you next time.